Falava, it is my pleasure to introduce Sofara Aiono, a graduate of the University of Otago who studied a Bachelor of Arts in Archaeology and Anthropology. Yeah?
Yep, that's right, yeah.
And is now Associate Program Manager at TupuToa. So thank you so much for joining us today, Sofara. So tell us a little bit about you. Tell us a bit about your personal journey, where you're from, and what brought you to Otago and to study the courses that you did.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for the warm welcome, Alba. I'm Talo Falava, Dalohani. My name is Sofara. So I am beaming live from Auckland at the moment, Tamaki Makaurau, but I actually come from the Wellington region. So I was born in Wellington, raised in Porirua, and did all my schooling in Upper Hutt. So I spent most of my formative years in Wellington. But came to Dunedin in 2008. But actually before that, in year 13, my last year of school, I had the opportunity to be part of the first Pacific on-campus experience, to come down and see what it was like to be in Dunedin. So I was year 13, came down and just was blown away by how awesome the city it was, you know, and in my mind at the time I thought, yay, freedom, to kind of get away from home and explore a new place. So yeah, so while I was at high school, I studied all the sciences, and in my mind, I thought I wanted to get into the health sector. So I originally had planned to come down and study first year health science, but very quickly realized that, you know, it was pretty tricky, very competitive atmosphere. But I guess I was lucky enough to discover anthropology. And as you mentioned, I completed my Bachelor of Arts in Anthropology, specializing in archaeology, but I had never heard of anthropology before coming to Otago. So I'm very lucky to have an elective paper that I studied in my first year, which was, I think it was called Anth 104. So that was specializing in the archaeological side of things. And for me, that just really kind of opened my mind to what you could be doing at university. So I guess as a kid, I really enjoyed reading about historical times. So I was really fascinated with ancient Egypt as a kid, and yeah, just being able to kind of explore that with anthropology allowed me to kind of stick to it and finish my degree in anthropology. But I also did a postgraduate diploma in peace and conflict studies, which was a very new program back in 2012, which I was ready to finish with my BA, but peace and conflict studies had just started, and we're looking for new candidates to come through their program, and I jumped on and thoroughly enjoyed it. And so yeah, I did 5 years in Dunedin and came out with my peace and conflict studies postgrad diploma.
Beautiful. And how did your career develop after leaving university?
So after uni, I was ready to I'd spent 5 years at Otago, and I was ready to go and explore the world. But as you can imagine, I just racked up a big student debt, and I was like, how do I do this? So firstly, I moved back home, and with my degree, I got a job at the Department of Internal Affairs, where I was there I only was there for about 9 months, but the plan was to kind of be there for about a year or two, build up some money and some experience, and then look at going overseas. But I had the opportunity to go to Japan on the JET program, which is the Japan Japan Exchange and Teaching Program. And so I was fortunate to go to Hiroshima, and I spent 3 years there. So yeah, I guess my career kind of took off, yeah, like after I'd moved back home, got a little bit of experience in the public sector, and then was able to go teach overseas with my degree, so you needed to have a degree and to be a native speaker of English, and that's how it kind of all started.
Wow, what an experience as well, taking you to Japan, and for such a long period of time. What feels like a long period of time.
Yeah, I didn't plan to be there that long. So I thought with my degrees, I wanted to stay in the public service and kind of work my way through and hopefully get into diplomacy or aid and development. That was my original plan, but found that I really enjoyed teaching. And I guess with the transferable skills I had with my degree, and being able to conduct research, just having a broad knowledge of other cultures really helped. So yeah.
Great takeaway. What are some of the milestones and inspirations along your journey?
I'd say my biggest milestone has been able to work and travel in over 40 countries. So yeah, and just having a degree kind of was the kind of unlock the gates to exploring other parts of the world. So I was able to go teaching overseas. I got into tertiary sector in the UK, where I was supporting international students in London. I was able to teach at an international school in northern Iraq, and also in Dubai. So it just kind of, yeah, I think that's been my biggest milestone, is just taking what I had, what I learnt in university, and just running with it, and just being really creative with how I used my degree.
Yeah, it's like your academic certificate became your passport.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure.
That's inspirational. It's actually making me want to explore opportunities overseas. And tell us about your current role. How did you find the role, or did the role find you, and what's it about?
So in my current role, I work for a social enterprise called TupuToa. So we're in the business of growing Māori and Pacific leaders in corporate Aotearoa, but also in government and community sectors. And I guess like the role kind of found me. So when I came back to Aotearoa in 2019, I was just amazed at the opportunities that Māori and Pacific had or have, to kind of break out of the stereotypical roles that we kind of seen as filling. We have the opportunity to get into these big corporates, like the top 4 accounting firms, top law firms. And that just really blew my mind, because when I was at university, like when I finished probably 12 years ago, I just didn't know how to access these opportunities. And all my friends at uni were getting into internships and doing summer clerkships at law firms. And I just thought that, wow, how are they doing it? When I was having to do odd jobs, stay in Dunedin, and I worked at the fish shop, Harbour Fish, and I was doing labouring jobs in retail just to try and get by. And I just didn't know how to access these resources. So yeah, coming back to New Zealand, I saw there was this great organisation called TupuToa that we're creating these opportunities for our people. And I wanted to be part of that. So I guess that's how I found TupuToa, or TupuToa found me, and it's been a really awesome experience so far.
And valuable, really valuable contribution to society.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so you've explained a little bit about TupuToa. What do you do on a typical day? What does your day look like?
So at the moment, we're at a very busy stage. So we kind of break up our year into stages. So in terms of, well, I should mention that we offer internships to Māori and Pacific in their penultimate year, which is their second to last year, and their final year of study. And so we're in our busy period. We're in our what we call our matching stage. So we've had over 600 applicants this year, and now our team are looking at placing them at different organizations. And so, yeah, we're super busy reviewing video interviews, reviewing CVs, giving feedback on those CVs, and doing a bit of one-on-one preparation for those candidates that we're putting forward for internship roles. So yeah, super busy at the moment, but every day is different. So, I could be, engaging like I am today, or I could be meeting with partners, like senior leadership level, CEOs, trying to get them to buy into our program, but also having catch-ups with students. So just in the past week, we've had some Tauira go for summer clerkships at some of our top law firms in Auckland. And so, I've invited them here to our office at TupuToa, and we go for coffee and we do a bit of interview prep. So every day is different. I could be, like a kind of tour kind of tainer relationship, working with students, or I could be meeting top level, senior level executives. So, yeah.
So you've managed to integrate that desire for social and cultural impact, and also have that contact with students that you so much enjoyed about teaching.
Absolutely. So having to pivot a lot is really important in this role. So really having to draw on my cultural values is really important, but also being really kind of firm and having a strong stance when I'm, talking to executives. So yeah, just being able to pivot is really important.
Mm. And how's your BA? You mentioned a little bit before. How's your BA and further studies of the humanities served you in your life and work? You managed about that cultural understanding. Anything else that you would point out?
So with my anthropology degree, I probably didn't go out and specifically use it in terms of, you know, going into masters and or becoming an archaeologist, which is a path that many of my classmates that took, you know, they got into archaeology or they went and worked in big museums overseas. But for me, I guess that I learned a lot of transferable skills, a lot of soft skills through my degree. So in terms of research, I guess I was just really creative with how I used it. And so I saw that I was able to go to Japan, for example, and teach about my own culture and teach about Aotearoa and kind of also include other Pacific cultures when I was talking to you know, students in Japan, but also presenting to community groups over there as well. Yeah.
And any advice that you would have for students who are pursuing a BA program?
My biggest advice is if you find something that you really enjoy, it doesn't matter like what your parents say or what you think they think. If you find something you really enjoy, then stick at it and really put all your effort into it. So that's where I found my calling with anthropology. I just love learning about different cultures. And so I stuck at it and I just got really creative with how I used that degree. So, you know, it really opens doors when you kind of, yeah, are creative with how you use your degree. As an example, so I work with the top 4 accounting firms. So you've probably heard of PwC, Deloitte, and all of the auditing teams, they're looking for students with humanities degrees, with BAs, because we have the ability to think outside the box and be kind of creative and think differently to perhaps someone that's done an accounting degree and just tends to think quite logically. So that's what I mean about, you know, thinking outside the box.
Yeah. And I really love that message of pursuing your passion, because once you do, you will find the niche that will best suit you and your skills and your interests. So it's a great message.
Yeah. And the other thing I just wanted to add is, you know, you become like an interesting person when you have all this background knowledge that you can share. So when I was in the UK, I worked at the New Zealand High Commission as well, but was also networking. So I had a lot of interesting things to say about, you know, the study that I had done. So I researched non-violent movements in Samoa, a lot of my kind of background knowledge on Pacific migration. So all of that comes into play. So if you have something interesting to share, it's great when you're networking, right? So you can kind of make connections by just being an interesting person.
An interesting person you are, Sofara. I wish I had more than the quoted time that we have for this conversation to explore more about your personal and your professional journey. Thank you so much for your time and for your insights and your generosity for students that will open up avenues and possibilities for them through your own experience. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Do you know what this does?